This is Real Toolbox Reviews. I'm your host Nate, and this is the Hilti AG 6D-22. It might be the most safest angle grinder ever created, but let's get into that. It's time for another Real Toolbox Review. Hello and welcome back in. I just want to start off this episode, as we will all episodes, by saluting each of you who have hit the subscribe button. RTR Nation, I love you. This is the Hilti AG 6D-22. It's an angle grinder, and it is loaded to the brim with safety features, and it is one of Hilti's marquee tools that they released with their Neuron collection. Its primary application, as many angle grinders are, is to cut rebar, steel, piping, a range of different things that you may need on the job site. However, it is meant to do the work that you need on a light duty basis. It's also rated, at least this one is, for using weld removals, notching, grinding, deburring, and finishing metal surfaces as well. It's also listed for a lot of concrete work, so grinding concrete, using it for masonry, doing light masonry, and obviously most angle grinders are used for cutting small amounts of tile as well. But first we have to look back at really how we got here for this individual tool. Neuron is the most recent battery release from Hilti, so this is obviously based on previous models, and we're going to start covering that more on the channel. So when you really look back, Hilti's corded versions of this tool were an AG500. They had the 11S, which was actually a corded model, and then once they released their 22 volt platform, they had an AG500-22S, and they had a couple of different ones. I actually used one of those. The problem I always had with it is that it was angled, so you really couldn't, you had to lay it down on its side. You could never stand it like you see this standing on its own right here. But those were the previous models, and then they carried that into the Neuron collection. Before we get any more into this angle grinder, I would like to cover price, because that is kind of a driver with this one. So currently this tool sells bare for $329. Now, if you're not familiar with Hilti products and how they're sold, I'll just explain it to you very quickly. If not, I'll mark a chapter. You can skip right ahead. But Hilti usually sells their tools bare, and then as you purchase stuff on their website, you can actually do a configuration. So you can configure a kit to have custom amount of batteries and a custom amount of chargers or type of charger. It's completely customizable. So the numbers on this, as you'll see on the screen here, for 2 batteries, 1 charger, and the tool, the kit, at this time of recording was $644.75. And again, that's 2 of these batteries, a charger, and then this tool. So it is fairly expensive when you rate that against Makita angle grinders, which I personally use. Obviously there's several other major tool brands that have angle grinders. This one is quite expensive, but there's a big reason for that, and we'll get into that next. So obviously angle grinders are extremely dangerous tools, and Hilti actually added several safety features to this one that make it probably one of the most safest angle grinders on the market today. First off, it does have active torque control, or ATC. We've seen that in a lot of drills and also a lot of SDS drills and rotary tools. What that means is that if this cutting wheel were to hit something and kick back, the tool would automatically shut itself off. Our rep told us how to trigger that, which was cutting angle steel. However, we could not do that, but that is a safety feature that is on it. And really what sets this angle grinder apart from any other angle grinder that at least I'm aware of is the SenseTech. What SenseTech is, and I'll show you here, and we'll also have a zoomed in version, is along here on the handle, it actually can detect when something is touching it. Now, bare hands are obviously easy, but as you can see in our testing video, I was using heavy duty demo gloves and it was still able to pick me up. And you can actually test the battery as well to see, as you see that triggering right there. This is really revolutionary technology, and it's heavily improved the safety of this angle grinder. And this does have the infamous dead man switch as well, which I think they kind of did as a kind of an ironic thing, because typically dead man switch angle grinders are the most dangerous. A lot of us have gotten used to the click on, and our Makitas that I also use with X-Lock, those just have a switch that you just switch on and off. This does have a dead man switch on it. So again, a really safe and also well thought out angle grinder. In addition to that, this angle grinder is extremely thin along the base here, which makes it extremely ergonomic. Oftentimes I don't even find myself using the handle. I'll just be grabbing the base, and that really is a really good thing, because if this was too bulky, especially if you're wearing thick gloves, this could get kind of hard to handle, but it's very easy to handle due to the ergonomics. All right, so next, just talking through measurements very briefly. With the battery, and again, we have the 85 battery in here in the picture. The angle grinder is about 14 inches long in total, and in terms of width, at its thickest point, it's only about 3 inches wide. So again, this is an extremely compact angle grinder, but again, it's also very ergonomic as well. In terms of weight, bare, it weighs about 4.4 pounds with an 85, and again, that's 85 watts. They do their batteries, Hilti does a little bit differently. It weighs about 6 pounds, and then it goes up from there depending on if you want a bigger battery for longer run time. All right, so next up is testing, and what I wanted to do was test two things that Hilti did not make a major claim about in any of their marketing. One was the runtime of their batteries, and also was the power. They did say that it produced more power, but they didn't give actual specifics. So in order to do that, what I did was I had this angle grinder cut 1/2-inch rebar, and basically what we were doing is making as many cuts as we possibly could on one 85 watt battery. The other challenge that we put it up to was if it could cut angle steel. And this was pretty heavy gauge stuff. So what we actually did was put that up, and again, same goal was to make as many cuts as we possibly could. And with the results of the testing, what we did for the rebars, as I said, we did as many cuts as we could. And with the 3 tests, we got 54, 55, and 57 cuts each time. And then, like I said before, the battery kind of puckered out at the end. With the L-bent steel, or the angle steel, excuse me, we actually only got 35 cuts on average. So both times it was actually 34 and 35. And at the end, the battery overheated. So not as many cuts, but again, that was substantially stronger steel. Now, for the rebar test, it was interesting how specifically the battery reacted, and it did provide in every single test power up until really the end. It got to the point that the wheel would not spin strongly enough to produce a cut. So the battery was extremely resilient and did not overheat with the rebar tests. However, with the bent steel and the angle steel, what we actually did was we overheated the battery every time, which is really not surprising. And the first one test we did where we just did as many cuts as we could, we overheated it. And then when we also did a failure test, that's when I was trying to see if we could trigger the ATC, we overheated the battery, as you'll see right here. What really amazed me about this is that the battery set itself off at we tested it right after we took it off, and it was about 150 degrees, which is pretty hot. But what was more incredible is that about 2 minutes later, it was functional again. Now, obviously, I didn't put it back on the tool, or I didn't put it back in a charger, but it did show just kind of how resilient these Neuron batteries are. And also then what I did the following day after it cooled and charged, you can do a diagnostic check by just holding down the button. I checked it and the batteries were fine. And with the testing, we actually got some really cool footage, so we're just going to roll that for a little bit with some music in the background, because cutting steel is a lot of fun, and the sparks look really cool. So enjoy. Okay, now moving into hate, love, and all the above, and starting off with hate. There are not a lot of things that I dislike about this angle grinder. I think it is an excellent, excellent tool, but there are a few things that I dislike. The first is that this is not a quick change. So keep in mind, I'm used to the X-Lock system from Makita that is very quick to swap out grinding discs as you go along. So it's extremely, extremely fast. This is a traditional thing, and they do sell, Hilti does sell as a separate product a quick lock nut, which would have been helpful because I've heard it does speed up the changing of the discs. But in between each test, and we have used this in the field, when your grinding disc is done, it is a little bit to do to get this off and get everything there. So it is a dislike, but it's a very, very small one. The other thing that I did not like is the combination of the dead man switch plus the Sense Tech. When you're starting it, you have to be very cognizant of where you're holding your hand, because if you're holding it here and you have your other hand on the handle, and I'm doing this the wrong way, but if you did have it like this and then you let go, it will misfire, or not misfire, turn off. So it is kind of, you have to get used to it, and there's a learning curve, but once you figure it out, it's pretty straightforward. Next, all the above. The first thing that was kind of just, all the above is just kind of when it's 50-50. It's not good, but it's not bad, was runtime. So when we put these batteries under load just continuously, we got about 9 minutes with the rebar test of just continuous runtime, and about 8 minutes when we were doing the angled steel, which obviously if you extended that out, that is pretty good. But still, the battery life just in general with this tool, because it is a powerful, powerful tool, it's also not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. So I put it in the all of the above. The other all of the above thing that I had was the price. Now with Hilti, you are not just buying a tool, you're also buying the service that comes with that, which is very hard for a lot of people to understand, because people will say, I buy tools from Milwaukee and DeWalt and they have a warranty. Sure, they do, but it is a lot to go through to get that warranty serviced. Hilti has what's called their 1-2-20, which is 1 day turnaround, 2-year warranty, and then 20 years they agree to repair the tool. I live in Milwaukee where there is a Hilti store. They are regional, so you could possibly, and you can ship broken tools into them similar to what Festool does. But still, this price is very, very kind of, I feel like it would be kind of a barrier to a lot of people to buy 2 batteries, a charger, and the angle grinder for basically $650. It's not bad, but it's also not good, so it fell into all the above. And finally, love. What did I love about this angle grinder? And I would be remiss if I didn't start off with the power. For a cordless angle grinder, this thing is immensely, immensely powerful. Obviously, we're able to show that in the testing video, but also just from using this in the field, it's just a very powerful angle grinder. Previous cordless angle grinders just didn't quite have the power to get through some harder applications, and we were stuck, and I still do have corded angle grinders because those just have the 15 amp power that you need. But this one is very, very powerful. And the other thing too is the compactness. The ergonomics on this are just excellent. I can't express how much I absolutely love how thin it is and how it's just easy to handle because of that. They clearly thought out the ergonomics, and it has just excellent, excellent handle. And next, and I'm sure lots of you thought, why is this not first, but safety features. The safety features on this angle grinder are excellent. The Sense Tech, as I mentioned before, once you get used to it, it's awesome, because there's little to no chance that you drop this and it can hurt somebody. Obviously, if you just drop this on your foot, if you're wearing steel-toed boots, you're gonna get a bruise, you might hurt your foot, but if this thing was going and hit your foot or hit a part of your body, it could be really bad. Whereas with Sense Tech, that's just completely taken out of the equation. And it does have ATC as well, which is kind of commonplace nowadays, but it's just nice that they have those 2 systems in place to keep you safe while you're using this tool. All right, so moving into Pro or Joe. This tool is definitely, it's accessible to DIYers. I think Hilti is starting to market to a wider audience. The price is obviously a barrier, but I think it could have applications in the DIY world just because it is so safe. So if you have a bunch of maybe tile projects, so you have to cut a bunch of steel for, if I've used an angle grinder at my house because I had to cut fence posts at one point. So there's applications, but by and large, this is a professional grade product. Hilti markets mostly to professionals. Again, most people are not on the Neuron system, and most people may have not even heard of Hilti. So it is definitely a pro product. It has that level. If you are a professional though, this angle grinder is just the bee's knees. It's so good. It's powerful. It does its job. The quick lock thing, once you get the quick lock nut, I'm gonna get it and just see how much it improves it. But I was extremely skeptical when I first got this, and as a professional, I'm telling you, this is definitely a pro product. But if you're out looking for the best angle grinder you can possibly buy, you can get this one. All right, so final thoughts on this angle grinder. This thing is great. I came into this kind of review process of this, and when I first bought it, I was extremely skeptical because I love the Makita X-Lock system, because I went from having to crank these, use the lock nut to get it on and off, and wasting a ton of time going from grinding disc to being able to just click those on. Now that does come with some drawbacks, and obviously Hilti has filled those drawbacks because they've produced an extremely, extremely powerful and also safe angle grinder, which angle grinders and safety usually don't go hand in hand, but Hilti has really done such a good job. I don't know how they figured it out, but they did. But overall, in terms of my opinion of this is going to get the prestigious stamp of Tool Dude approved, because it is an exceptional product. Hilti is an awesome company. They've really lived up to their name with this product and this tool with its safety features. The Neuron platform is awesome. I just can't say enough good stuff about it. All right, well, that is it for this episode of Real Toolbox Reviews. Again, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed. If you can, smash the like button. It helps the apparently algorithm. I'm not a technical person, but that helps out. And if you hit the subscribe button, I really, really appreciate it. We're gonna announce some really cool giveaways coming up for certain benchmarks as we grow this channel out. But again, I appreciate you watching. This is an awesome, awesome angle grinder. I'm so happy I got to review it. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, stay well and please be kind to others. Take care.